Hi, I'm Mara Lathrop. This is Interviews at Undertown as part of the 13th Annual Port Townsend Film Festival, and Bruce Dern has joined us for a few minutes. Thanks so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
I've got one really big question for you. Why does film matter?
Why does it matter?
Why does it matter, and what does it give us?
Well, certain kinds of film record history.
Yeah.
Other film that is made for theaters or the public consumption or anything like that are extensions of what novelists do, what poets do, what composers do. It's to show us pieces of life that we see or don't see and wonder about. But the biggest thing film is it's about once upon a time. And that's its value. Because an audience gets to pick a filmmaker's brain. And then he picks their pocket. By making them sit in a room for an hour and a half and watch what he's done. And no, what it really does is it's not a science. Acting is an art. Cinematography is an art. What those two guys are doing is art. What Tom is doing is an art. But it's an opportunity to reach every place on earth with pictures. And the difference between what Tom does and Ansel Adams did and Margaret Bork White and people like that is that, Dora Welty, if you will, is that when you walk in to see a movie, over the marquee it says moving pictures. Mm-hmm. And that's what movies do that he doesn't do. And his stuff is great and sometimes much better than a movie. But movies, because of the once a time value of it, allow audiences to get into the minds, the hearts and souls, see things that they've never seen, places they've never seen, and explore. I mean, to me, the last sense that I've seen of pioneering in this country is filmmaking. Because anybody that takes one of these cameras out and goes somewhere is a pioneer. Because hopefully they're pointing it at and making the subject matter things we've never seen before.
Why do you think story is so important to us humans?
Well, because audiences are very hip now.
Yeah.
And basically ahead of us, ahead of the filmmakers. So how do you keep them not behind, but with you?
Yeah.
You've got to bring stories to them quicker in a different form or some kind of form. I mean, not other than film, but I mean, you know, if we're not talking about the proscenium and theater, we're talking about film. The thing that the movie industry has missed in the last quarter of a century is a lot of films from the heart. Mm-hmm. About America, about people in America. I'm not here to, be a Romney or a, Obama or anything. I'm here because it's an opportunity to tell a story that people don't read in a book. J.W. Salinger never allowed his material to become movies.
Right.
I will tell a story tonight about a guy who never really meant what he wrote to be a movie. But they convinced him that they could be movies. And then he died. And that's F. Scott Fitzgerald. Mm-hmm. He didn't want Gatsby to be a movie. He didn't write, the same with Salinger. They wrote them not as visual experiences for audiences. They wrote them as, this is it. And it's like, in a movie, you can't put Christ's face on the screen. I mean, you're allowed to and all, but you can't do it because everybody has a different Christ, a different vision of
right.
Christ. I mean, Christ is Christ, or, But, so you have to find a story. And without a story, I've made movies without a story, and they sunk very, very quickly.
Yeah,
You know, you make a movie about an event, and if you don't investigate that event from all areas, if you just try a hotel fire and you just throw it out there, oh, wasn't this a horrible fire? Or if you made a movie about 9/11 and just saw the planes going into the buildings burning, and people jumping, so what? That's not a movie. It's a catastrophe, but where's the movie? And so it's another form of expression, but it can be all-encompassing expression when you put it together with the music, and you put it together with the pictures, and you put it together with the story, and you put it together with the people, and the people breathe life into that. You know, that's the way it works the best. And the wonderful thing about some place like this, and this is what you're doing. You're honoring people that are doing that haven't necessarily done it before.
that is true.
So the excitement of a festival like this is the same reason I say I've worked for 5 directors that are geniuses.
Right.
And the reason they're geniuses is because, and this is what you'll find here from the kid I just met or other kids every now and then,
Yeah,
is that going to work for those people every single day, you went to work thinking you just might do something nobody's ever done before.
right? I want to ask you about your love of movies as an audience member. So when you walk into a theater and sit down with your bag of popcorn, and the lights go dark, and
Buttered popcorn with salt and
buttered
and a
popcorn with
Pepsi.
salt. Have you had any Iraqis popcorn at the Rose yet? You know it's the best. Anyway, when you sit down and you're not going to be in the film, you're just going to the movies like everybody else. What are you waiting for?
The first 3 words of Chris Cross's best song. Sailing, take me away. That's it. Take me away to something I haven't seen. Someplace I don't know where it's going to go, what it's going to be. The reason I told Steven Spielberg that Douglas Trumbull was a genius,
Yeah.
because when he looks through the eyepiece of a camera,
Yeah.
he sees something other people don't see. And Steven
And-
said, well, what is that?
Yeah.
Magic. Movies are magic. And they really can be magic. And I mean, Bob Rosen and I made a movie for Mr. Frankenheimer, well, Bob produced it, called Black Sunday.
Right.
I'm not sure that movie should ever be made again or should be made because somebody could do that. And why encourage somebody to do that? But it's as good an examination of what goes on out there. And I took a liberty one night in the movie where I asked Mr. Frankenheimer, I want to do a little something in this scene. And he said, once. You can do it once, and if it doesn't work, it's out of the movie, and I'll never let you do it again. And in the scene, we're 2 terrorists. I don't know if you ever saw the movie.
I've seen it.
Anyway, we're sitting in a bedroom just before we're going to blow up the world.
Right.
And surrounded by every kind of gun and mechanism and everything else. And nobody's saying anything, and I just turn my head to her. She's on the bed, I'm in a chair. And I just say, I love you. And he allowed that. And it's one of the best moments I've ever had in a movie. And the reason I was excited to do it was, what happens when the terrorists love each other or are real people? And they're not just bad people. Well, they're not bad people. They have a cause, they have so forth and so on. And that's what movies can do. They can show you the other side of why the bad people become bad, how they become bad, what they do. But at the same time, they have kids, they eat certain kinds of food, they have certain romances, they've been to certain schools, all that. And that's the magic of movies. I love it. For me, when I look at movies, I have 3 or 4 movies. There are movies that I will go see just for a moment in a movie. I'll sit through a whole movie just to see 10 seconds or something, this and that.
Like, give me an example.
I'll go see Lawrence of Arabia for several moments, but for one, Peter O'Toole is at a table drawing up the constitution of a country, Arabia, for these guys that he's gone with, these people, and he's writing it. And it's going to make a country and give them all something they've never had. Anthony Quinn rides in on a camel, and he says, Orenz, what are you doing? He says, I'm making a constitution. He says, oh, come on out to the desert. This isn't you. It'll never happen. You can't do that. Well, that movement breaks my heart. And the reason it breaks my heart is because this guy did this shit. I mean, he did this,
Yeah.
D. Lawrence. I mean, he did everything you see in the movie. And moments like that, other moments are great. Bobby Blake, forgive me, but he's an interesting kid to me, and I've known him forever. Did a movie called Pork Chop Hill. In the movie, he's sent between Gregory Peck and the other guy who they're on hills in a war, and all their phones are out, their walkie-talkies. So Bobby Blake is a runner, and they assign him to go from one mountain to the other mountain and deliver the message of where to aim the guns to fire the rest of the things because they can't get through them. So he runs with the note, and halfway across, he gets blown up and blown to pieces, but he's not dead, but he's going to be dead. So the Gregory Peck people go out because he just gets to about the halfway mark and bring him back. And Gregory Peck comes in, and he says, oh, soldier, you know, thank you so much and everything for trying to do what you did. And we'll get somebody else to get through somehow. And Bobby Blake looks up at him and says, don't you want me to be your runner anymore?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's just, I mean, those are moments, you know. Montgomery Clift has one in Raintree County. I mean, there's just, they're fabulous moments. I mean, when Brando picks up Eva Marie's glove and on the waterfront, in the hallway, that's the best sex scene I ever saw in my life. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, it's romance. It's the beginning. It's, you know, and even in Raintree County, when Lee Marvin finally dies, he beat Monty Clift in the 4th of July foot race and everything like that. And when he dies and the rebel soldier kills him and hollers across at him and he doesn't answer, he comes up to him and looks down at the dying Lee Marvin. And Lee Marvin just looks up to him, and all he can say, I was the fastest man in Raintree County. Mm-hmm. That's movies. That's why I make them. I could go on and on about moments that I've seen. I've never really had one like that, a great moment. I mean, I've done some things in movies I'm very, very proud of and said some things. I was responsible for taking the uniform off rather than just going into the ocean and coming home. I felt the guy, if it's a burial, then he's not going in his uniform because Marines aren't suicides.
Right.
So he stacked it all the way it was again and then left. I don't know. I could go on, but and that's the advantage of a movie. And you can. And the other thing is, everybody said, well, when you went from the theater to come to movies and make movies and everything, why? I said, because what you do in movies is forever.
There you go.
What you do in a play, my opening night in a Broadway play, we opened, and the next day I had to do a matinee. And this was about Sinclair Lewis and Dorothy Thompson. And, you know, there's 800 people in the John Golden Theater, and I come out to do my thing at the beginning, and one look, what did he say, Harriet? And I just broke the third wall, and I said, Madam, I said, hello. And no, that wasn't a line at all. But it got her attention. She didn't ask her friend out loud anything again. You know? And a wonderful thing, one wonderful thing you could do in the theater, never did, there was a play called The Epitaph of the Late George Dillon.
Yeah.
And it was produced by David Merrick. And it got horrible reviews. And Bob Stevens, who was married a long time to Maggie Smith, was playing the guy. And he was one of the new wave actors in plays by Osborne and people like that. And he was a real bastard in the play. So after a week of dying and no advance sale, David Merrick went to Bob Stevens and said, tonight we're going to up the play. He said, what do I have to do? He said, nothing. You just do your thing. So when Bob Stevens is a rant in the middle of the play, a girl runs up from the audience and slaps his face. You bastard! And goes and sits down. The movie ran 2 years, the play ran 2 years after that. And that's why David Merrick is a genius as a producer. I mean, he did shit like that.
That's great.
And in a movie, you can't do that because it's already there. But the best thing about movies are you can film mistakes. And you can film mistakes people make. And for the most part, that's what
goal.
movies are
That's
the
the
best
goal,
about.
right, yeah.
You know, I'll tell a story tonight that is about not a mistake, but why mistakes work in film.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't mean on camera, you know, the prop falls or something like that. I mean, you know, when we make mistakes. I became an actor for one reason. What makes us behave the way we do in times of crisis? Why do we make the choices we make? I don't have a gun in my home and never will. Because when they come in my house for whatever stuff I have that they want, I can't imagine anything they want, a bunch of running trophies and shit like that, but they wouldn't want any of that. So I don't have a gun, because if you have a gun, you better have the guts to pull the trigger.
Absolutely.
And I don't know that I have the guts to do that at the time necessary. So I rely on my gift of gab to try and talk the guy out of it. Now I have 9 bullet holes before I finish a sentence. But I hope it'll work that way, you know.
Either that or he'll say, gosh, I'm really sorry, Mr. Dern, and turn around and leave,
Yeah.
right?
You know what's exciting also about festivals that's great about what you guys are up to? Because you're ahead of the curve in one area. You want the heretofore unknown filmmaker. You want the heretofore people that are dreaming, and you're catching them in their first sets of dreams. And they're telling stories that they haven't even told to anybody else. And they're doing that. And there's a privacy to what you have going on. And I suspect there's also that same kind of privacy goes on in this community with the people, not the film people, everybody. Because, like I've said, that I feel that there's something going on here. You guys are up to something. What it appears that you're up to is preserving an Americana that is been forgotten and left behind, but was what made people come west in the first place. You know, why did they come? Well, it's all in one song. The bear, and this is what movies are. The bear went over the mountain, the bear went over the mountain, and what do you think he saw? And that's what this festival does. What do you think we could see? And you put it up there.
Yeah.
And sometimes some do, some don't. But the ones that don't even dared. You got to have daring to make a movie, to produce a movie, to be in a movie. You don't have to have as much daring to write it, because you're getting peanut butter sandwiches slid under a door and you're writing, and no one ever sees you. They don't know who you are. And so therefore, the writers are more successful in going from the heart immediately. And what they're not successful at always is getting directors and producers that believe why they wrote the piece and what they wrote the piece about and want to make it. You know, and that's the teamwork in a movie is fabulous. You can't do it by yourself. I can't do it by myself. These kids can't do it by themselves with the camera. But together, oh, what we might do.
What we might do indeed.
Yeah. And the greatest moment of all that, and intolerance of that, is in Amadeus. It's the purest moment I've ever seen. Now, I'm from a community of wasps that make you puke. And the whole standardism of Winnetka, Glencoe, Illinois, the North Shore, is one of that is settled in a second in Amadeus. Mm-hmm. The king is sitting in a chair with the Austrian concertmaster, and they're watching Mozart's opera without the music, because he said there's too many notes.
Too many notes, right.
So take the music out. So the girls are dancing and doing their thing, and it's horrible. And the king turns and he says to the Austrian concertmaster, "You don't like this, do you? Mozart, do you like this?" And he said, "No, sorry, they have it." But the concertmaster says, "Sire, it was you that said do this." And he said, "I didn't." He said, "Yes, sir, you did." And he said, "Well, it's terrible. I was wrong. Put the music back in." And the concertmaster says, "No." Of course, he's an Austrian also, or German, not an Austrian. And he said, "But sire," he said, "put the music back in." And then he says the magical two words. The concertmaster says, "But sire, I'm going on and on here. You said," and the king turns to him and he says, "Oblige me." That's why they're kings. Immediately the music was in and they went on. I love that. I love a moment like that. I mean, every movie has moments.
Yeah.
I mean, I became a guy who will never raise a gun and hunt an animal as long as I live, because Gregory Peck made the kid take the yearling into the woods.
And I have a son who won't eat pork because of Babe.
Really.
Yeah.
I mean, and whenever James Cromwell gets a job from me,
Yeah.
I always said, "You mean pigs, Dad?" That's the only way I fairly can knock him,
Thanks. Thanks for
All right.
coming down here.
You're
I really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you for
It was
having me
great.
twice. You had Brewster and Squared.
I did. It's
Very
great.
good.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Don.
Have a good time the rest of the festival, okay?
Thank you. I will.